Hey, everybody, back again with us once more is Paul Craig Roberts to talk about a recent column on his site, which is about the Ukraine escalation and what it portends for the future. Is it more indication that we are heading towards a major conflagration, maybe even World War III? So, Paul, what signs do you see indicating this progression and this escalation?
Yes, they're mounting rapidly, Larry. Uh, uh, Perhaps the most frightful one is the recent Ukrainian attack on the early warning system, the early ICBM warning system of Russia.
Yeah.
They managed to hit radars essential to Russians Russia's early warning system with long-range missiles or drones or something that we gave them. Now, this strikes me as probably the most reckless uh, incident to date because although I'm no expert, I think under Russian nuclear doctrine, an attack on their early warning system is regarded as a nuclear attack and it justifies their use of a nuclear response. Now, of course, Putin is too careful and too responsible to do something like that. But what it shows on our part is a growing recklessness. Uh, we're pushing harder. We're getting more provocative. And we see another equally, almost equally as disturbing development in the growing support for allowing Ukraine to use the long-range missiles we provide to attack deep within Russia.
Yeah.
Uh, we have this U.S. Republican committee chairman in the House advocating that we get out of Ukraine's way and let them use this. We had the NATO Secretary General saying that Ukraine has to be able to use the weapons we provide however they want, and so on. So it looks like the intended provocations of Russia are getting more and more serious.
And also, Paul, Victoria Nuland, the neocon, former Undersecretary of State who engineered a lot of what led up to this, she's recently come out and made another statement, aggressive statement about this. So she's resurfacing now in some form.
Yes, her departure remains a mystery. Um, so NATO and Washington are advocating to let Ukraine use the long-range missiles to attack deep within Russia. And the Russian response was to conduct an exercise simulating the use of tactical nuclear weapons against Europe. Now, these three together should scare us a great deal, and yet we still see no inclination whatsoever of anybody in the West to sit down and talk to Putin and see if this can be resolved in some way. It's quite amazing that with Biden's term almost over, he has never met with Putin.
Yeah, yeah, good point.
Yeah,
Also,
he's never met. And there's no inclination anywhere that I can see in any Western leadership other than Hungary, where people are concerned about the recklessness, increasing recklessness of the Western pressure on Russia.
they're also talking about NATO troops more and more.
More and more. And in fact, the United States chairman of the Joint Chiefs said it's just a matter of time.
Yeah. So
So
once you insert NATO troops, then it becomes a real mess.
it's a direct conflict between Russia and the West. I mean, it is now already a direct conflict because we're providing the weapons, we're providing the targeting information, the intelligence. Um, we're already directly involved. The French Foreign Legion is there. So, and the lies about Russia are endless. There's no sign of hey, we better get this under control before we find ourselves blown up. There's no inclination in the West. So either they don't care or they don't think Russia is up to fighting a war. I don't know which it is, but
Well, I mean, I keep coming back to that. I mean, how can they be so cavalier about this with the risk involved? Like you say, it's either that they don't think Russia is up to it, or Russia wouldn't dare, or they think they could win a nuclear war with Russia. And they talk about a limited nuclear war, which makes no sense. But I mean, it just seems to me, officials who are supposedly competent and experienced that they'd be taking a chance like this. I mean, to me, it defies explanation.
I think what's happened, we no longer have a media.
Mhm.
We there's no American media, not print and TV media. And we no longer have any foreign policy analysts. They're all propagandists. If you read what they're writing, it's all nonsense. It's all propaganda. It's all we got to get the Russians, and it's nothing like it was during the Cold War, where even the hardliners, the anti-communist hardliners against the Soviet Union, who were very reasonable and careful about what they said and thought, and they were looking for solutions, not conflict. But what we have now is people only looking for conflict. Take Lindsey Graham, the Republican senator in South Carolina. He's on TV just ranting and raving about how Israel has to use nuclear weapons in order to protect the survival of the Israeli state. Well, it's not going to protect the survival of Israel to use nuclear weapons. And he just rants and raves. And he wants to know how come we could use them against Japan, but Israel can't use them against Iran. And it's a form of mindlessness. And it's almost like they think they're somehow immune to any effects of the use of nuclear weapons. So it's scary. It's and what you see. I was involved in the Cold War in many ways. I was trustee of the Committee on the Present Danger. And they were all very distinguished Americans. They certainly weren't willing for us to be knuckled under by the Soviet Union, but they certainly weren't going to go start a war. And when I recall all of the seriousness and the discussions and deliberations and the care and, and the avoidance of provocations, and I compare that with today, I just say, wow, it's insane. What we're doing is insane.
Yeah, Paul, I was going to ask you about that. That came to mind just as you said it, that in your day, there were some real thinkers and analysts and statesmen. So they've all been replaced by neocons and advocates, crazies. I mean, how did that happen? In a nation with the importance of the United States, that they've all become crazies now, and the real thinkers, the serious people, are replaced. I mean, is that what's going on?
Yeah, I think it was money. There used to be a respect for truth and donors wanted good analysis. If they donated money to a think tank, they were trying to support, careful thought, good analysis, and now it's just propaganda. The money comes from the military security complex, or it comes from Israel, or wherever it comes from, it's serving an agenda, a propaganda agenda. And so it infects the universities. They're like this too now. You have to say what the supporters of the research or the institute or your faculty position want you to say. You don't get the money. And so they're simply no longer capable of approaching it in an objective way. They have to approach it in a propagandistic way in order to keep the money flowing. And I think that's what's happened. It's just they've sold out the world for money.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, considering the seriousness of this, I mean, it's really alarming, and it seems like there's no way of reversing it. So, Paul Craig Roberts, thanks for this update on what's going on in Ukraine, and it's only getting worse. So, we'll keep updating this as we go along. Paul Craig Roberts, thanks very much for being with us, and we'll be talking again soon.